All right, great. Didn't botch anything. No, thank you so much for having me here, guys. And I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen.
You guys
So,
hear okay? Yeah.
all right, cool. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk to you tonight. I'm trying to get through a lot of stuff here. It's about midterm rentals specifically. Sometimes they call them medium-term rentals. We'll go through what that means and everything. And specifically, we're gonna look at the travel nurse sector, but there's also other avatars that you can also target, which would specifically work for the model that you're trying to for multifamily. So we'll go through just a little bit of everything. We'll touch on what it's about. This is going to be overarching for the most part. I try to get as deep as I can based on the time that we have here and the experience I have. We'll go through evaluation, some pricing, how you can come up with your pricing, what the space should be like, marketing, leasing, and then we can do some QA. And if we don't get to all the questions and answers, you can always reach out to me or, privately or whatever. Be happy to help you guys. Now, before we go on, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. All right, cool. So who am I and why should you guys even listen to me? I'm a real estate investor. I've been investing for a little over 16 years in the buy and hold space, self-managing my properties throughout the whole process, leasing. And these traditionally have been unfurnished rentals. And in more recent years, I got into the midterm rental space kind of by accident. And we'll go through that story a little bit. I'm also a fix and flip investor. I do project management for that, and I GC the projects as well. I've done hands-on construction in the past, so I like to get involved so I know what I'm hiring people to do as well. But I've now since transferred everything to contractors. My background is in marketing and advertising. I was what we call a creative in this world. So I have a design background and a nice sense of vision and stuff. So a lot of these projects I approach, I kind of can comp them up ahead of time and see how they come to life in like Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that. So that's a big tool for me as well. So I got started in midterm rentals, like I said, by accident. I had a multifamily property that had a vacancy during the holiday season. And as you guys know, it's one of the most challenging times to rent. Not many people are moving. There's a lot going on. Priorities are on holidays. So I actually had a staffing agency reach out to me individually to see if I wanted to lease my space to travel nurses. And this was a foreign concept to me, and I wasn't quite sure what she meant, but I listened to her out. She's like, you could charge more, we'll furnish it for you. We'll do everything. So I was like, okay, I have no other options at this point. So let's go ahead and do it. And this was younger in my career. This was over 10 years ago. So that's kind of how it went. And I did observe that they were very quiet, very respectful. Obviously the income came in monthly because it was with the contract with the staffing agency. So it was really smooth and a nice fresh breath of air, to be honest with you. So from there, I just kind of always had that strategy in the back of my head. And then when I had a furnished rental available or a space that was furnished, I said, hey, let me go ahead and do this again. So I started doing that. And then I added more and more available spaces for this. So it's very lucrative. And it just takes a different style of management, but it can be done. So now on to the good stuff. We'll start with a little overview and evaluation. Midterm rentals, it also called medium-term rentals, is something that lasts typically 3 months, at least in the travel nurses. Their contracts are 3 months, and it's also less than 1 year. It can also be considered a rental that's over 1 month as well. And these are typically furnished. So the differentiating factor between the Airbnbs is Airbnb typically a couple days to a couple weeks. And untraditional or unfurnished traditional rentals, as you know, is 1 year lease. So and hotels, while they're furnished, they don't really offer the same amenities, benefits, and they're definitely not cost efficient. And you'll see some of these targets that you want to target to get these contracts specifically for multifamilies. You can sell them on the cost efficiency of your property. So if you go and you say an extended stay America, find out what their cost is for a 2-bedroom, type of space, weekly, monthly, daily, what it is, and run those numbers. And then when you get your comps for what we're going to be talking about tonight, you can see where the cost savings might be, where you're still going to be charging more than a traditional rental, but you'll be asking less than what they would be paying. So that's another point of difference that you can sell when you try to have these conversations. So the avatars, as we talked about. Who can we target for midterm rentals? A lot of people figure travel nurses is kind of the way to go. And that's where I have been in my space because I am close to Yale Hospital and some other hospitals. And it's just the model that I personally like because I like the tenant pool. You can also, similar to that, there's corporate professionals. These are professionals who have to go on assignment for a few months at a time, for whatever assignment they're on. Obviously, we just spoke about travel nurses. They're on a 3-month contract. There's temporary construction workers. So if there's a big job site, like a new Amazon facility is being put up and they have their own crews, they're sending these guys and gals need accommodations for a few months at a time, probably. And right now they're using like the extended stay Americas, the hotels. And as you know, nightly, that could be pretty expensive. So that's your opportunity to also offer a solution there as well. Insurance companies, they have disaster and emergency housing that they need. So when a family or somebody's displaced due to flooding, natural disasters, fires, whatever it is, insurance companies, while they're doing the renovations and adjustments, we need to put these folks in housing. And that's where you can come in and offer that as an option. And each one of these sections, they all have their own type of sites, websites and stuff where you can reach out and try to like really gain a relationship with them so that you can offer your services. So today we're going to specifically talk about travel nurses, and I'm going to kind of give you the overview on what they're looking for and how you can furnish your space. So when we talk about underwriting for this, you'd probably want, I always recommend underwrite based on a regular market rents anyway, just because like when you go for resale and whatnot, you want to make sure that you're buying it right. As you know, if you buy it, you make your money when you buy. You can also, if you do get a contract ahead of time and you have some of these contracts in place, you can potentially go to your lender and say, hey, I have these contracts, and they'll lend against it. So that's an option as well, but you need to speak to them specifically. So travel nurses, their positions, their roles are to really fill the gaps in the needs for hospitals and facilities across the country, often for short periods of time. And this was a little more prominent during COVID when there was a lot of need. But if you're in a market that has really a lot of, hospitals or clinics, it doesn't have to be just hospitals, but other spaces where there's a need for this, like that could be your target, right? If you're not, potentially one of these other avatars could be something that would be, are you in a high growth area? Like what's your market doing? Like, is there job growth? Is a town growing? Where's the growth happening? And you might be able to use one of these, the corporate professionals or temporary construction worker areas, but there's always need for disaster relief housing as well. So they work for staffing agencies. So just like a temporary placement agency, if you will, right? They go reach out to them and they place them in contracts around at these hospitals. So you can also go to the hospitals and ask, hey, who are you working with? What agency? And then you can see if they'll give you a contact name potentially, so that you can go reach out to them and tell them what you have available. So why is this beneficial for the nurses, travel nurses? It's flexible. They like to have everything fully furnished. They can just come right in. It's convenient and it's really cost effective for them. A lot of times they're just traveling with like a bag or two, and that's pretty much it, and their car. For you get potentially it's a potential for a lot higher rents, lower tenant screening risks, specifically for nurses, shorter vacancies, and lower turnover costs. So when you're looking at your property, as a fit? Okay, well, let's take a look. Like we just said, what's the market demand, right? What's the proximity that you are to, let's say we're talking about travel nurses again, hospitals and everything like that. What amenities do you already have in place, or can you provide? If you have a property that you could potentially put a gym in, maybe, or carve out a little space that has some kind of something like that. Does it have a pool? Does it have laundry? Any amenities like that, close to running a track where you could run, bicycles that you rent out. And then your attitude and appetite, right? Is this a fit for you? Not every strategy in investing is a fit for everyone. So, that's something to think about as well, because you're going to have to build up a crew. You can use a local agent as well and ask for referrals, have a handyman, have a cleaning team you can get through like Angie's List or somewhere like that. Or if just through referrals. Sometimes I like to use the local Facebook marketplace, or not marketplace, groups, if you will, for a specific area and like geographic area, investor groups, and ask for recommendations there and referrals. We just talked about underwriting a little bit. So again, I would stick with the traditional model when I'm underwriting for these, but know that you can get more cash flow this way if something does happen for whatever reason you need out, or you need to rent it a different way, you have that option, and you're not, especially right now with things, everything's changing. As far as like, as we get inside the property, do you have sufficient bedroom space, separate common area spaces? So if you're going to rent out, say, you can rent out by a unit, like a 3-2, like a property or an apartment, and you could rent that either out to individual rooms, or you can rent that out as the whole space, because there are nurses that like to travel together. They want to go with their friends, or they find somebody they worked on assignment with somewhere, and they're like, hey, let's go on our next assignment together. So now you have people looking for 2-3 bedrooms together at a time. And not only that, but you also, like, another avatar that is out there, you have people who are relocating, and they want to like try a place first before they, well, they're looking for a house or something too. So they're also looking for full houses as well. So there's a lot of different avatars out there looking for different spaces. And again, we're just focusing mostly on travel nurses this evening, just because that is kind of like the primary one in the space right now. Like I said, I mean, appliances, you're going to want to wash a washer, dryer, a dishwasher is convenient. Any of these things, it's similar to Airbnb, right? It started as like, hey, I'll rent the bedroom in my space, and I've got, whatever, just a bedroom. But now it's designed, and it's really competitive, and there's a lot of different things going on. Midterm rentals, like, you're seeing the shift happen from the short-term rental space to the midterm rentals, excuse me, where people are going to have their spaces are going to really stand out in a crowd. So you want to make sure that you're doing the same as well. And we'll talk about style and everything too, but that also is with like amenities and anything like that. Utilities, you should expect that the utilities will be included. So when you're running your numbers, don't only do the holding costs, what it would normally be, but the utilities as well. In the winter, is your gas really high? Is your electric really high in the summer? And then try to figure out those numbers as well when you're factoring that in. Parking and safety. A lot of them do bring their own vehicles, but you do want to make sure that you have a nice, well-lit, safe, secure area. Nurses will work overnight shifts, and they'll be coming home when it's like the middle of the night, and they want to make sure that they're in a safe space. So is your property also in a safe space, in a safe place? Is there, if you're going to do, let's say you have a larger, like 50 or 100 unit, and you want to carve out a space within there to do travel nurses or furnished midterm rentals or whatever it is, is there a lot of ambient noise? Is there a lot of noise outside? Is there a lot of foot traffic? Maybe you could find a space that's a little further away from, the hubbub of everyone, and kind of make it its own little hub somewhere. If you want to try this out and you already have a property, you can try it out with a few at first, right? And then the nice thing is, as you're getting these contracts more and more, if you do, they'll reach out to you, say, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom or whatever it is. And then maybe you have one coming up. And if you don't have something, you can use a colleague, say, ahead of time, like, I might have something coming up, down the line. Would you be open to it? And this way you're not like, kind of, when they call you, which is, important to build the relationship, that you won't be like, oh, I don't have anything. So you got to be creative in finding a way to keep this relationship going. Okay. So how's my pacing going? Am I speaking a little too quickly and for you guys, or mumbling?
Can you hear them?
Not really. Good, cool. All right, good.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I tend to speak quickly, so I will try to slow down. Furnished Finder specifically, it has started as the place where all travel nurses go. You will also find other people looking for furnished rentals here, but this is still kind of the place where travel nurses still use and go to find spaces. So if you're doing this yourself and you don't have those contracts yet, this is where I would go. This is where I would go. And this is where I do go. So they're kind of the Amazon, if you will, of midterm rentals, for furnished rentals for travel nurses. It's got a lot more tools implemented right now. So it's got like an all-in-one system where you can search for prospective tenants. They can reach out to you. You could do screening, you can do leasing, you can do everything all in one right here. They're familiar with this platform. They've been using this platform. We have no affiliation. We're not promoting them for any fees or anything. I just wanted to, tell you that. But they're just a really good tool. I think 14 days is kind of the turnaround when they start looking to when they actually get booked on there. So you want to make sure you're on there often and communicating. So To determine your market demand, they have a tool here. It's furnishfinder.com/stats. You can go on there and you can put your zip code or your area, and then it'll give you this little like fun little, infographic that shows how many searches have been come in through this past year, month, last 30 days. What's the average rents per month for one bedroom and per room and stuff like that, because you can rent just the rooms. And even if you don't want to try this in the multifamily space and you have, an extra space in a house hacking situation, you can try it there too. So that's what's really cool about this, is it's very scalable. But obviously the more you're scaling, the more infrastructure you're going to need to help you, take care of the turnover and demand and marketing and everything. So I check out that tool and just start poking around. I mean, that's what I do. To determine pricing, there's not really a magic formula so much, but you can use these tools here to just kind of determine a rate. So again, Furnish Finder, go in your area, take a look around. Airbnb, you can go take a look around, maybe pick like the top handful of properties that are performing here, the best ones, and comp them to yours and see what they're getting, for rates. Airbnb, Mashvisor, all of these, and you can do that and just kind of come up with a number based on these comps. I'm sure you guys are more than capable of pricing your rentals that you have as is. It's the same thing. It's just with see what amenities are, proximity. Sometimes the proximity, if it's in like a big town, sometimes being a little bit out of town is nice too. I have one that's near the beach and it's like just outside of, out of the hubbub, but it's a nice quiet neighborhood and, it's desirable. So another strategy that some folks do is you can find those top performing comps on each average, like so Airbnb, for instance, what's the monthly rent? What would it end up being if you took every night, and then drop that by 10 to 15% and see what that number ends up being. So in other words, say there's a three bed, 2 bath renting for Airbnb for, $250 a night traditionally, multiply that by 30, whatever that number is, now drop that 10 to 15%. And that's what you can kind of start to use your number as. And I would cross-reference that against Furnish Finder to see what the appetite and tolerance is for this. But when you're trying to get the contracts, go with that number, see what they do, because travel nurses, they have their contracts and they get paid for their housing, directly. So if they save money on their housing, they save money in their pocket. When you have the contracts with the staffing agencies, they're going to pay you whatever rate that they pay. Same thing I said, I just kind of, this is the map view, and then they have very, very typical, each of the properties and what they rent for monthly or daily. So you just kind of poke around here. And you want to make sure that you're comparing your furnishings, your amenities, your parking situation, and everything. And we'll talk about in a little bit a couple different bells and whistles that you can add as well. All right. So when you're designing the space, you want to be purposeful, right? You want to think about what would that person who's renting from you, what would you want, right? If you were in that scenario. So put yourself always in the shoes of your target clientele, right? And you can, even if you're not quite sure, you can go and ask some folks who, what would you want? What would you be looking for? Or create a mood board, go onto Pinterest and find some stuff and create a couple different mood boards. Be like, hey, does this resonate? Does this resonate? That's kind of the creative in me. What kind of things would you want? If you're traveling for 3 months, maybe a bicycle, maybe, what would you want to have convenient for you? Especially when you're working long hours. I mean, these guys work really long hours. I believe they're on call sometimes as well. They're working like 12-hour shifts, and then they come home, cook, maybe work out, whatever it is, and then go to sleep. So yeah, here's a little hint: safety, comfort, and quiet. They won't bring a lot of items with them, so you want to make sure you have them. Anything you'd have in your own home. The most important things would be a really, really comfortable bed. So nice memory foam with comfortable sheets, plenty of linens. Just think comfort and convenience. You're going to want to furnish the whole thing with cutlery, dishes, pots, pans. There's a lot of stuff that you kind of forget that you have. You're like, okay, I got a bed, a couch, TV. Well, it goes further than that. Like, you've got to stock your pantry, with potentially spices and flowers and stuff like that. Think of when you're in an Airbnb, right? But it's at this, you take it another level. Airbnb, you're there for a few days. Oh, it looks pretty, it's cool. Then you sit on the couch. It might not be that comfortable, right? So you want to make sure you spend a little bit more for those premium items so that it's really comfortable. A full length mirror is important, right? Sometimes we forget about that because you want to check to see how you look before you head out, wherever you're going. You can do some board games or books. Like I'm near the beach, so I have beach chairs and towels. Some other things that you can provide, like a box fan, or just like a oscillating fan for when they want it gets hot in the summer. Sound machines also nice, just to kind of drown out the noise in the background. Blackout curtains is also really important, because if they're working overnight and during the day sunny out, they don't want to have the light shine in their eyes when they're trying to sleep. And then think of the theme, like overall. It should have went first, the theming, before we went into the detailed. But what's your theme? Like, what area are you in? What kind of character can you bring into, like, are you guys is your town known for having great barbecue, or that kind of like rustic feel? And then you want to maybe design it around that. These folks are coming from different parts of the country, and you want to kind of immerse them in your area, and they don't know anything about it. So give them a feel for it, but make sure it's still clean, organized, bright, and welcoming overall. You can consider bringing in an interior designer if that's in your budget, give you some ideas, and they can even do the whole thing for you, soup to nuts. So the budget. So when we talk about how to get started, there's timing and there's budgeting. There's a couple different ways you can go about it, but you probably want to give yourself like a month, like 4 weeks from, say, today I'm going to start and I want to have it filled in 4 weeks is when you should anticipate, maybe even a little bit longer, depending on lead times. If you're going to order from some of these places, it might take a few weeks to get something in. So always have a backup plan for that. The budget, you could do it from anywhere from 5 to 20,000, depends on what space you're furnishing. There's a rule of thumb that you can look at $13 to $15 per square foot for furnishing. It used to be 10, but it's a little, everything's a little more expensive now. So, it also depends like where you go. So I put this like little range here from like more cost efficient to a little more expensive. Like you could, right, top of the line, go get a interior designer, have them take care of everything, acquire everything for you, pick everything out and just buy it, mark it, boom, done, and have it furnished. Or you can go yourself and create your own design, and then you can go to some of these more cost-effective areas. So they go from a little like, costlier to a little more cost-efficient. I find a lot of really good stuff at Habitat for Humanity Restore, especially if I'm doing like a renovation. Like you can get tile, you can get flooring, you can get vanities. You can also get like couches and furniture like that. I would always recommend you get brand new mattresses and pillows and stuff like that. But depending on if it's like gently worn, you might be able to get a couch from there, or from Goodwill or even Marketplace. But with all those things, just be wary of where it's coming from, what home it was in before, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, Target's great, Walmart's great. I mean, as far as the stuff they have, maybe not their practices, certain things. But like Wayfair, wherever, just look at what the pricing is. So that's why it's such a big range here. I'm able to be a little more savvy with what I do. And because I have a design background, I could bring stuff together. IKEA has a great range of things for like knickknacks and like plants, like little fake plants you could put here and there. And it just really creates that textured layering of things. So if you're like using like that wood, texture we were talking about, bringing some greenery and stuff, and even some live plants are great too. Just make sure they're being kept up with. But so this is what's going to help set you apart. And you can use, Pinterest for inspiration as well. Other considerations, some things that we talked about, things that you might not think about though, like the blackout shades or curtains, really important, especially for travel nurses. Reserve parking if you're in the multifamily space, and there's the whole big parking lot. You can just create a few little reserved spaces for them, so that, like, again, if they're working in the middle of the night, they're coming back at like 3 or 4 a.m. They know that they have a spot. They don't have to, after this rough shift they've been working, they just want to get home. They just want to take a shower and go to sleep. They don't got to drive around looking for a spot somewhere, and they know they have something to come home to. And you could charge a premium for that as well. You can do it as a la carte, or you can do it as part of the rental and bump it up. Motion lights, well-lit area, for wherever they're coming in. Think about like a Fire Stick is really nice, because, everybody has their own subscription services these days. So I could just go somewhere and log in and I'm good to go. And I have something like that. You can also provide it yourself. You can provide a subscription for a service for each of the units. Obviously make sure you have good Wi-Fi. That's really important because, after a day of hard work and you get ready, you just want to watch your shows or whatever it is that you want to do. Typically it's tied to the Wi-Fi. Again, gym, pool, additional amenities, always great. If you have a property that has like a clubhouse or something, super cool. And now you got like built-in friends and neighbors, right? So, and then you can even take it another level to these white glove amenities, additional services that will really set your space out from competitors that you can include this in, or you can do it kind of, again, a la carte, add it on. You have cleaning and housekeeping. They can come weekly or monthly or bi-weekly, bi-monthly, whatever it is. You can do food shopping. You can have, stock their fridge and pantry every week. You can shop for them or have a service do that. You could do like Instacart or, have a specific person go and do this, a VA. Laundry service, pick up, drop off. Airport, again, pick up, drop off. You can have that service, and just factor it all in, right? Like I said, they're kind of traveling with like a bag or maybe 2 bags, and that's pretty much it. You can include a vehicle. You could do a rental through Turo, which is pretty much like Airbnb for cars. So if you have an extra car in your driveway, you can rent it out via this site. So how nice would it be to fly into town, get picked up at the airport, my food's already in the fridge, it's a nice clean space. Just gonna drop off all the clothes that I just, traveled in, get it clean. And I have a car let me go explore the neighborhood. I have a car right there in the driveway. And think about it, right, from the target person's perspective, what would make the great stay for them. All right. So like we said, hello there. Finding tenants, if you're doing the individual, like kind of, or groups, if you will, the smaller groups, we'll get it on next slide. So you can do individual travel nurses, you can do groups of nurses, like we said, and you can also use staffing agencies. So these are kind of your different clients, if you will. Individual and group, we talked about doing Furnish Finder. You can go on there, you can post your property, get a professional, make a listing, you upload it, and then they'll come to you. You can also reach out to folks on there who have open requests. There's also unmatched requests that are up there as well that doesn't match your property, but they have a search out there like, hey, I'm looking for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, and it would put like unmatched below, but you still get to see those. So then you can see like what's also the demand and what's not being filled or fit for that market. Or you can even reach out and say, and maybe again, you know somebody who has a space they traditionally use for Airbnb. Maybe you could figure something out, a referral fee, whatever it is, and try to help each other out. So there's not this sense of scarcity so much, but you want to help each other out to create a nice business in the neighborhood. So yeah, highlight your space, your amenities. You guys know how to do listings, I'm sure. You can even leverage AI, ChatGPT, if you want some help along the way. I like to always adjust those, just throw some things in there, see how it comes out. A big thing is to make sure that you respond to these messages in a very timely manner, because there's an algorithm that Furnish Finder specifically has that they give a little more weight to listings where the hosts are, more communicative and open and whatnot. But you can put in here, I don't know if you guys can see, but you can put like 30-day minimum, bedrooms, what utilities included. So all the details in there. All right, so this is really where you guys want to try to focus mostly if you're going to be doing multiple bedrooms and spaces. And this is what the travel nurse agencies. And what you want, this can be way more lucrative, like we said, but it's a little more challenging. And it's a little more work trying to get through to them to get these contracts. So pretty much what it is they become your client. So they'll end up renting the property from you and they'll fill their nurses into your space. So a way that you can do this is you can, like I mentioned, you can ask hospitals which agencies they work with. These are some of the top ones here on the right. In my area, Aya Healthcare is very, very prominent here. And then you can go on to LinkedIn and you can search like Aya Healthcare, like Connecticut Recruiter or whatever it is, and try to find the specific people in those areas. Then you can send them a message and just kind of, introduce yourself, say, what you have available or what you're looking to do and what you might be having in, just be professional and tell them that show your credibility, and try to build that relationship that way. Right. You could probably also try to contact them directly and see if they have somebody in your geographic area that you can be put in contact with. but try to build that relationship, keep following up, see what they're looking for in properties. If they don't have something available, then just make sure you check in, just try to build that relationship. You could send like news articles that might be relevant to them. Like, hey, I saw this. I thought I'd share it with you. You guys know. You're trying to build relationships. So keep the goal. Is to stay top of mind for them and to get a contract. So when they do have somebody they're looking, you're going to be the first person they come to. Screening and leasing. The good news with travel nurses is that most of the work is already done for you. So they get these contracts. They already have background checks done, credit checks, and all that jazz. And they have a contract for employment. So that's pretty good, right? I mean, and with anything, like, that's wonderful. You want to trust, you want to verify. So I still do a full application. I do a background criminal eviction check. I call the agencies to make sure that, they actually have a contract with them. And then I confirm the contract with the recruiter, verify their information. So not only does that, is it a great screening method, it's also a great way to build a relationship with that recruiter. So when you call and you're like, hey, I'm calling to verify, employment, so-and-so, this contract, then you say, oh, are you guys looking for other spaces here? Do you have any other needs? Like, build that relationship. Would it be okay if I check in with you in a month and see? And now you have that direct phone number and the open communication. So that's on you. Try to build that relationship. More contracts equals more money. Okay. So while you got them in the property now you want to make sure you give them impeccable customer service. Again, they're really busy. Hopefully they won't call you after the first few times. Like, they'll get settled in. They'll have a couple questions like, wait, what's this, that? Can I take this thing out of here? There's not enough space here. Or do you mind if I get this, that? You know how it goes. So answer all those calls. And if you can mediate in any way with a guidebook, that's great. You also want to just kind of give them an overview in these things. Like, you've seen these when you go to Airbnbs. It's got the Wi-Fi login, it's got local amenities, move in, move out procedures, but you can give them even so much more. I mean, you could even go for a local gym or something and try to negotiate some kind of a special deal or whatever percentage off at a restaurant and put coupons in there for them or something, just think, if you went to a town that you knew nothing about, what would you want to know? So you can put stuff in there. And then at the end of their tenancy, you want to make sure that you get reviews. So be sure to ask for a review. What could we have done better? What did you love? What did you dislike? And you can also check in from time to time, make sure, hey, is everything good? Is there anything I can get you? Do you need anything? How's your stay? Just be, open, communicative. You don't have to spend a ton of time on it. It doesn't take a long time to shoot an email or send a text message or, even pick up the phone call. And I know they're busy a lot, but make sure you ask for these reviews, because then as you get the reviews up there, then you can also go back and say, hey, recruiter, I've had so many people stay here and here's some, hey, you know what? Don't even take my word for it. Here's some reviews I got. One of them was actually your, person you staffed here. So that's another way to leverage those, as you know. So yeah, I guess overall summary, midterm rentals can be very lucrative, very satisfying strategy that you can add to your repertoire for investing. And it's a great alternative to traditional unfurnished long-term rentals. They're very much in demand. I believe Blackstone recently has channeled some money into buying midterm rentals and bringing those up. And when the big money starts going places, that's like kind of where the market's going. So midterm rentals is sort of in its infancy. And again, not only travel nurses, but you've got all those other avatars as well. So really consider it seriously. And hey, enjoy the ride. So I'll open it up to questions and hopefully I can have answers for you. So thank you so much. I'm Carlin. You could follow me individually on Instagram or follow my company, which is Rev Property Partners. And I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We do this. You guys have questions for Carlin? I mean, it's a lot of information. Because I have questions, but I want you guys to ask questions. No, you go first. I'll go last.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
And I'll repeat the question too for people online. Okay.
Great.
I was gonna ask you, because you mentioned that you underwrite the deals as if it was a market rent. do you see, so let's say you do this approach, and then you turn all units into like short term, like or medium term. When you sell them after 3-5 years, do you see like any issue with the next buyer? Or do you think the property would be appraised as still like you know where I'm going, right?
I was making numbers. I
Okay,
was doing exactly what you're talking about. So the question basically is, if you take units and you underwrite them and help me out a little bit, because it was a long question,
yeah.
right? So, if you take a property and you underwrite it as a long-term rental, and then you decide that you're going to turn them into, nursing rentals, two questions, I guess. One is, when you go to sell it, are you having more of a challenge selling it to the next buyer because it's not a standard rental? And number two is, can you take your new, I guess, can you get your property valued based on the income approach on short-term rentals versus a regular rental? And I guess the way I was looking at it was, well, let's answer the first question, then I'll kind of chime in on the second one, and kind of maybe dig a little deeper in there.
Okay. Yeah, I have not sold a property yet that I've had leased up like that. So I couldn't really speak to that too much. I do know appraisers typically like, to use market rents for their value approach. They'll use 3 or a whole handful of those comps. So it's really going to be on the appetite of if you're going to sell it as a business to the next buyer. That would be my answer.
Okay, so that kind of is the way we lead, right? So from a business standpoint, most multifamilies are based on income. I mean, they do a couple of other things as well, but at the end of the day, it's about, income. So my thought process was, like he was talking about, you take a 10 unit, right? And you're charging $1,000 a month. So it's 120 grand a year in gross revenues. And just take 50% off the top, and we'll just do it the easy way for vacancy, expenses, everything else. So now you're left with 60,000. So at a 10 cap, because the math is easier, right? The property is worth 600 grand. So you buy it, right? And now you got it running, and it's worth 600 grand with just standard tenants in it. And then you decide, well, you know something, I can get 3 grand versus a grand, right? So then your top line revenue is now 360, right? Or your expenses are going to be higher, right? Because you've got to furnish, you've got turnover, you got all the other stuff. So let's call it 60% all the way across the board. So
And
now
utilities.
I'm sorry.
And the utilities.
And the utilities. Okay, so call it 65%. What's 65% of 360? Anybody? Not through your head. Hold on. 360 times what is it? 234. Okay, so 234 at a 10 cap is 2.3, right? Okay, so you went from a property worth, how much was it before? 600? 600,000 to a property that's worth $2.3 million. So theoretically, right, you could buy a small 10 unit, which pretty much anybody can do on their own. If you don't have the cash, you get a backer or something like that to JV with you. You go in, you do all the work, you turn it around, and then at some point in the future, you do one of two things. You talked about going to a bank and maybe getting reappraised at the higher rate, but I'm guessing you have to season for 12 months. Is that right? Have 12 months worth of receipts?
I was talking about getting the contracts and showing that you have the income so that they can underwrite the property on the purchase side.
Right, exactly right. But then I'm wondering if you could do the same thing on the back end, where you can have the contracts, you've got a year of, paperwork or whatever it is, or a year run rate, go to the bank and go, listen, my property is worth 2.5. Will you give me 60% of that? Take that money, pay off your mortgage if you want to, whatever it may be, or keep the money and then go buy something bigger, right? And then just keep, rinse and repeat, right? Buy another unit, make your $1 million, right? And then go on to the next one and the next one.
Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't show that on T12, right?
Right. Is that, are we still on track, or is that something you think we could do?
I think that, I think if you can find a way to have those contracts in place that transfer with the LLC or whatever you're holding the property in, I don't see why that would be a challenge. I could do some digging around and follow up on that and get a better answer for you.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. Thank you.
Cool.
Great question. You have one more, right? Or was that a vote?
No.
That was it? Okay. Well, Andre's thinking over there about his 12 units. And he just closed. So I did have some questions. So
Sure.
I thought about, providing as many amenities as you possibly can, some of them a la carte, some of them just kind of as a bundle. In terms of the Turo thing, how do you work that? Because usually if you're going to provide the car, it's under your name and you are qualified to drive it. Do you get a second driver and allow them to do it? How does that, do you know how that actually works? Have you had a chance to do it, or you've seen other people do it and that's kind of an idea?
Yeah, my buddy Jesse does it. I have not had to. Again, that's another thing I can get an answer from you,
Okay,
or you as well, or we can reach out to Turo directly, or I can poke around for you. I
okay,
just conceptually know that that is an option, and it's definitely more cost efficient than a rental car.
okay. So what we'll do is when we get, you and I can get together and kind of come up with like a Q&A or something like that, 2
Yeah.
or 3 questions, and then we'll send it out to everybody, so everybody has it. And when you talk 13 to 15 square feet, or I'm sorry, $13 to $15 per square foot to furnish, is that furniture only, or does that include like bed sheets and pots
Soup
and
to
pans?
nuts. Yeah, that's everything.
Wow, okay, that's awesome. And then who is responsible for the cleaning? Are they responsible themselves, or you offer a la carte, will clean for you?
Well, they would clean normally their own like place, but if you want to offer the services to have a cleaner go in, just bump up the rent that you would put on it and then have them come in. What you were going to do is typical, a deep cleaning at the end of the tenancy anyway. So similar to like Airbnb does. Now you only have them coming in every 3 months as opposed to like every few days or every few weeks, so the turnover is a lot less.
Okay. Am I the only one gonna ask questions besides?
No,
Una? Oh, there you go.
so when you talk about like location for the property, I mean, like, what do you tend to figure in terms of, distance, how close to, I guess, would it be working or whatever?
So the question is, in terms of location, do you have any kind of, I guess, distance parameters in terms of
Yeah,
close to
or-
hospitals or something, or airports, or any kind of advice, I guess, on locating the specific area that you would get the best results in?
Yeah, I think you have to do a market research on like a deep dive into it. I typically would not want to go further than 10 miles. I think 10 miles is still pretty far from a hospital too, but it depends on how like condensed or remote the spaces that you are, like we're around New York City, right? I'm close to here. So everything's really like condensed. So 10 miles is a totally different market, but so I want to stay within a few miles here. As far as airports, so I do have a lot of tenants that they just take their own cars, so they're driving across country anyway, so you don't need to worry about an airport. So I wouldn't worry about that so much. So hospitals, there's clinical areas, there's clinicians come in. You could like VA hospitals, there's other places that they can come in to work at. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes.
Yeah, I would try not to give them more than like a 15-minute drive, 10-15-minute drive.
And then for like security and stuff like that, you just use like the keypad locks?
Yeah, if you're doing individual, yeah, I like keypad locks because I could change the code every time. I asked them if they have a custom code they want to use. If not, I'll just do like the last 4 of their phone number or something like
Okay.
that. Yeah,
And you can do that remotely?
you can do that remotely. Yeah, you can there's some systems out there that you can use. And you can
Okay.
use the same, you can do like smart thermostats as well too for remote if there's a way, to kind of keep it in between a range. You could lock it in there, I believe.
Okay, and then, had a question, it just skipped my mind quick, somebody else asked one. Shoot, hold on, let me look at my notes. This is hospitals, you covered that. So for extended stay, do they usually provide laundry service, laundry in extended stay? You may not know the answer to that. I'm just curious in terms of competition, what the expectation is.
I've stayed there before, not for a super extended stay, but I don't remember them having crazy amenities. They have like the whole kitchen like set up and whatnot, but it's like a junior version of like an Airbnb. So I don't have the exact answer, but I think they have laundry on site. And I think it's like a hotel. It's like a hotel kind of hybrid. So you could probably do the like dry cleaner, wash this, the check little thing that they have.
Right, okay. Because I know there's like services that'll actually pick up and deliver, they'll take it
Right.
along, they'll do it or whatever it is. And then the last question I wrote down was, Obviously, this is more involved than just putting a tenant in place and making sure you take care of maintenance and stuff like that over a year's time. So there is more work involved, but there's also much better return. In terms of answering tenant questions like, hey, I don't know where the nearest Domino's is. I'm sure you get those every once in a while, or maybe a lot, I don't know. Or I don't know how to work a Nest thermostat or whatever it is. Do you do that? Or do you have a VA that you've trained to actually take care of that? And if she can't answer or he can't answer something, then it gets forwarded to you?
Yeah, I mean, I do it myself. You can definitely have a VA. You can have them like a script with all the answers in it if you wanted to have them like handle stuff like that. And you can have them, you could even use like Trello if you wanted to, or Slack, and set up systems like that so that VA can just kind of at you down there or pass it over to you. Or you can have them go directly to your handyman if it's something like that. They can go show them as well. But typically, I mean, they're pretty self-sufficient. A lot of these folks like kind of just know and take it into their own hands. I don't really
Right.
get a lot of silly questions. Like, not that they're silly questions, but I don't really get a lot of questions that you can't easily find on Google, if you will.
Okay,
Hopefully that answers that.
yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody? Juan, Marvin, Andre? Nope, we're good?
You can always hit me up. I mean, you got my contact stuff here. Like, you can always shoot me a note. And
Yeah,
mine-
when we send out the recap,
Yeah.
we'll make sure all your contact information's on there, unless you don't want it on there. But in case you get flooded or something like that.
I'll put my address, unless you're bringing some fun dinner, some nice Italian food or something, you want to wash my car.
Listen, this has been one of the best ones that we've had. I mean, this is very different from the standard multifamily. And it's funny because we were both like kind of our brains were already turning. It's like, all right, how do you do this? How do you value it?
Yeah.
Can flip a property or keep it as is, and maybe hire somebody to just run it, but all sorts of flexibility with apartment buildings and nurse or short-term rentals. So this has been phenomenal. Thank you
Yeah.
very, very much. It's really,
Yeah.
really been great.
Yeah, no problem. I have a note out to an appraiser, a commercial appraiser too, that I'm really close with, to see about better answer to your question as well about how they'll do valuations. So I will circle
Okay.
back on that as well.
Okay, that's what I like about you, man. You're on it. Right.
Yeah, you got to Henry Ford this stuff. If you don't know the answer, you got to just find out who does.
Exactly. Anything else? Anybody? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it so
All right.
much. Thanks for having me. Good luck.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.